Hi, today I want to talk about something that's incredibly important to me in my creative process, and I think might help you out if you're kind of struggling with finding your own system for that sort of thing, and that is storyboarding. When you think of storyboarding, you might think of things like movies, maybe behind the scenes footage that you've seen with the professional artists that draw out into the little boxes, the scenes or the shots that you're going to want to get for the film just as a visualization before you go and shoot, and that's what it is, but you can do that too, and you don't need to be a pro artist, because that's pretty much the furthest thing from what I am. I draw stick figures, that's about it. I storyboard for every single one of my short films and even a lot of my more entailed YouTube videos. Maybe not something where I'm sitting down and talking like this and just kind of throwing B-roll over it, but some of the more sophisticated edits I'll almost always storyboard beforehand. Now this might seem like a lot of extra work, and it kind of is, especially if you don't like drawing. Like I don't like drawing at all. I'm terrible at it. However, I have found that storyboarding in advance saves me so much time in the shooting and in the editing of the final product. Just think about it. If you're filming a short or a YouTube video, how much time do you spend actually framing up the shot, getting it to look as good as you want it for whatever you're creating? Now, if you like to be more artistic, get the lighting just right, pull in shadows in certain areas and make sure it all looks good, that could be a lot of time. Like sometimes it takes me quite a bit of time just to set up simple talking shots like this. And if you've got, say, 20, 25, 30 shots for a single video, all of that time setting up and figuring out what'll look good, or like how you can blend one shot into the other, that'll take a lot of time. If you have a storyboard, all of that time is spent right away in the beginning, and you don't have to worry about moving anything around to try to make it look good. Like, I've got it all figured out before I even sit down to start shooting. That's not to say I follow my storyboard to a T all the time and don't improvise. Like, certainly I could see something out on the street and say, wow, that would be a great looking shot, and just go for it. But this is a very, very good way to keep yourself on track and not get distracted with the technical difficulties of setting up certain shots. So okay, you're on board with storyboarding now. You think it's a great idea, but how do you get started into storyboarding? How do you even do it? It is an art in and of itself, right? And yeah, it is. But I want to encourage you not to be scared of the technical difficulties of drawing out different scenes. Like I said, I draw stick figures a lot of the time. As long as you're able to understand and able to visualize the actual shot that you want to get, that's what a storyboard is for. You don't need to do anything complex. For example, let's take a look at this storyboard that I drew for my Truth About College in 2020 short. This is one of the first storyboards that I've actually drawn for a YouTube short or a short film video thing. And I specifically did it for this short because I knew that I would be downtown on campus and I wouldn't really have time to figure out the shots. I would just have to do it, because I think I filmed this between classes. So what did I do? I took my script, because I already had a script, and I tried to visualize what I was gonna shoot. Usually this goes pretty well for me. I can get like certain shots in my head, especially if I sort of know the locations I'm gonna be shooting. And planning out all these shots ahead of time certainly saved me time on location. So obviously the first shot is me sitting on the bench. I didn't exactly have a perfect location in mind, but I figured out what one would look good and kind of hoped for the best, and it worked out. Obviously there are shots in here that I didn't actually end up putting in the final film. Either they were too complex to get when I was shooting, or the timing just didn't work out, because I'll usually shoot way too much B-roll for a certain film and then I'll just cut out the ones that don't look as good. So this shot of me in the cafeteria, that doesn't exist in the final film. But we've got the shot in math class and walking down the street and the writing and all of that. And then this is probably my favorite shot in the entire thing, which is me and my friend, also named Joe, on a bench in the campus cafeteria area. So again, when I went down on campus to film this entire short, I kind of knew what shots I wanted to get. I had a certain time frame of the shots, and within that time frame, I jumped from one to the other, really only taking 1 or 2 takes per shot. I knew that's really all it would will take, all the film would require. You'll see I also have frames in here where I have my phone in front of the camera. I have that stuff planned out. That's not something that I do just kind of on a whim because it's easier to do. That's specifically something that I try to achieve. And so when I'm doing my storyboard, I include those shots with the phone and not just what's contained in the phone, if that makes sense. I like storyboarding in this way because it allows me to be much more intentional with my films, and it's kind of just fun to look back and see, yeah, okay, I remember doing that. Now, as far as marking the individual frames as to where I want them to appear in the video, usually I won't have timestamps because I won't have edited the dialogue by this point. Every once in a while I will, and so I'll throw them in there. But before I draw a storyboard, I'll always have the script, so I can take certain lines that I know are going to appear and put them as sort of markers underneath the frames. That way I know where these shots are going to appear in the film, and it just speeds things up in the editing room because I can just go, oh, well, I hit this line, now I can move this shot over and it corresponds and matches, and I can take this one out, and you know, it streamlines my workflow. As far as the technical aspects of what to draw the storyboard on or with, this is all up to personal preference. You can do something as simple as have a piece of paper, take a pen, and draw little squares in the piece of paper so that you can fill them in like pseudo frames. That's what I started storyboarding with. That's what my first storyboards are on, but unfortunately I think I threw those away. Now, last Christmas I was gifted these like storyboard books that actually have it pre-formatted and like some extra little lines where you can draw descriptions or shot types and stuff. And this has been super helpful. I highly recommend you pick one of these up if you're like serious about getting into storyboarding, because it just takes those blocks away, those unnecessary difficulties that'll make you not want to storyboard. It'll remove those. This is not sponsored. I'm sure there's a bunch of great storyboard books. I'll see if I can link these specific ones down below for you, but anything will really work. I like to draw in pen just because it flows nicer on the page. It's a pain because you can't really erase it, whereas pencil you can erase and get them looking right. But like I said before, I never worry about the actual artistic detail of the storyboards as long as it's something that I can look at and perceive what I want the shot to be, and even just recall it in my head and get that more beautifully painted picture or beautifully framed picture that I had immediately or initially had in my head. It's really, the storyboard is just to recall that to my memory, basically. So now you're all set and ready to storyboard. I hope that you'll consider it and that it's helpful to you if you decide to start doing them. But there's one other thing that's good about storyboarding that I wanted to leave to the end that I already had in my head, but I was taking the Martin Scorsese masterclass, and he actually mentioned that he did this as well. So don't take it from me, take it from like one of the greatest living directors. Storyboarding isn't just good for productions that you're planning on making and that you need to put down on paper and make examples of the shots that you want to get. Storyboarding is also amazing for those ideas, projects, things that you dream about. Maybe it's a Roman gladiator epic or a sci-fi action fiction, I have no idea. It's some sort of movie that you would love to produce but would obviously cost millions and millions of dollars, and you can't afford that. Use storyboarding to your advantage as your camera. That little pen and piece of paper can act as a camera, different kinds of lenses, set pieces, actors, anything you want. It's a blank slate. So if you're practicing getting out your ideas in an artistic sense or on the screen, there's really no better way to do it than storyboarding, because you're literally creating everything that you want for your film in your head and making it exactly as you would like it, or at least as your drawing skills will allow it, on the piece of paper. Martin Scorsese said that he did this as a kid, like with this, they showed in the masterclass some like Roman film that he wanted to make, and he had the different shots, and I did the same sort of thing. I usually do it in the past as actually music videos, because that's the thing about my creative process. A lot of the time it depends on music, like whatever type of music I'm listening to, whether it be an actual song, classical music, that sort of thing. It helps me think along a creative narrative. It's just something I like to do. So what would happen is I'd be lying there in bed just listening to music, enjoying music, and I'd think of a certain music video that I wanted to make. I think that the first one that I have here is a song called Slow Dancing in the Dark by Joji. It's a pretty dramatic song, but I really enjoyed it, and it brought a lot of pictures into my head. And I thought, dang, I'd like to make a music video about this because it has a certain narrative that I like to follow in my head. And what I did was I just took a pencil and I put that down on a page, just as a creative exercise. You can tell in these drawings I put way more effort into them than, like, say the ones that I'm just doing for my YouTube videos. But that's because this is more like if I was going to shoot it as a production and I knew that I'd never really be able to do that, then this is how I'd want it to look. So consider doing that as sort of a creative exercise. Get your creative energy out and just practice thinking of shots and thinking cinematically. Funny thing, I didn't know that there was a music video for Slow Dancing in the Dark when I made this, and then I went and it was just recommended to me on YouTube maybe a month ago. I made the storyboard probably about a year ago, but I saw the actual music video for that song, and it's not exactly the same as what I drew out, but the tone, the colors, the mood of the music video for the song is actually very similar to the one I drew out. So that's funny, but it makes sense because they're both videos, quote unquote, about the same song. So if you're gonna do something that's specific to a particular song, they're gonna look the same. But that was just a little tidbit that I wanted to share with you. I enjoyed making this video. I sort of spitballed it. I didn't have a script, so my apologies if it was kind of everywhere. This was finals week, so I didn't really have time to fully think out what I was gonna do for a video. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'm always happy to help a friend out. And if you made it this far, you might as well leave a like. It definitely helps me out, pushes me to keep pushing out good content, and I appreciate you being here. Please remember that you are an awesome human being, and I'll talk to you later.